The Nationals took 2 of 3 against the Los Angeles Dodgers in Chavez Ravine. So, of course, we got to talk about Jake Irvin, CJ Abrams, but even more importantly, how big of a step will Jake Irvin take in the year of 2024?
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. And of course, I'm your host, Ryan Clary. You can catch me over on Twitter at RyanClary11 and as well as the show page at LO_Nationals. For all your latest Nationals news and notes, make sure to check us out over on X. Later on in today's show, the Nationals have the day off, so we're going to kind of get into the NL East, as I have one big takeaway. I'll explain that in the third segment of today's show. And of course, the second segment, if you see it up on YouTube right now, you'll see the Nats have an unsung hero, and his name is Jesse Winker. After being a minor league just signing this last offseason, I wasn't really expecting him to do all too much, but if you look at the numbers, he has been one of the better hitters in the National League so far in 2024. And again, it's only April 18th, but still, these numbers are pretty legit. We'll discuss that in the second segment of today's show. But now let's get into Jake Irvin and as well as CJ Abrams. But of course, today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it, I have a competitive side, and it is a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play Store. So let's get into it, as the Nationals again took 2 of 3 against the Dodgers at Chavez Ravine. And of course, not many people were expecting that. You weren't going up against the Dodgers ace. You weren't going up against Clayton Kershaw. You weren't going up against Walker Buehler and all the other different pitchers that they have. You went against guys who made their major league debut, like in yesterday's contest. You went against guys like in game 2, where it was just a bullpen game. The Nationals, overall, though, that was a massive series win. Hunter Harvey was talking about this in the clubhouse yesterday and kind of said, this team has always played well on the road. And if you look back even to last year and even at points in 2022, yeah, this team has always played a lot better on the road. And for some weird reason, when they go to Dodger Stadium, they somehow, some way kind of bring their game up to the level with the Los Angeles Dodgers. So going into this series, you have Mitchell Parker game 1 and make his major league debut. And a lot of people were like, including myself, this is going to be a disaster. You're going into that series, you don't really expect a win in game 1. Going into game 2, you're not really expecting a win with Patrick Corbin, and that ultimately is what happened. And then game 3, you have Jake Irvin on the bump. We all know he's taken a step up this year. You all know that all of his stuff plays, and you think a lot of people have put a lot of stock into the kid, but still, you weren't expecting what happened in yesterday's start with Jake Irvin. Jake Irvin goes 6 innings pitched and ultimately was very damn good. Had a couple of strikeouts, didn't walk many guys. Jake Irvin is starting to kind of show that not only is this guy going to be a middle rotation guy, this is someone who could potentially on this 2024 Nationals team probably be their second best pitcher. As Josiah Gray is on the shelf right now, there's not really much to look forward to. You know, there's not really much that you can really kind of hang your hat on with this team. Jake Irvin is starting to be one of those guys, though. And of course, Mackenzie Gore, CJ Abrams as well, that we're going to discuss about his just crazy start to the season here relatively shortly. But I think Jake Irvin deserves a little bit more love, because as we sit here today, his ERA is at a 3.13. You can't really help but think that this is going to be someone who will be a mainstay in this rotation for not only this year, but in 2025 and hopefully 2026. Because again, 6 strikeouts over 6 innings pitched, having a 3.13 ERA on the season so far, only walking 1 batter against that loaded Dodger team. You can't help but kind of dream a little bit. What could Irvin be at this point? Because I think whatever expectation you and myself included may have given him before this season is probably selling him short for what the kid is now. And again, the Nationals weren't expecting this. I don't think the Nationals went into 2024 thinking that Jake Irvin was going to be some mid-rotation stud, but that is kind of what he's looking at right now. And even then, we kind of just discussed this a little bit earlier on in this season, but I don't think it's a crazy thing to say that Jake Irvin is your second best pitcher on this roster right now, right behind Mackenzie Gore, who has been your ace of the staff. But now with Jake Irvin, the expectations, whatever you had for him, you got to put those to the side. Because again, this guy is going up against very good teams and having very good results. Listen, it's not going to be the end of the world if Jake Irvin gets rocked around for a start or two, but still, you can kind of count on this guy not only taking a step up, but again, being a guy for this team down the line that will help you hopefully make a postseason run in the year of 2025. Because again, the Nationals, we know they're not all too great. They're at 8-10. They're in 4th in the NL East right now. But you just took on head-on with a very good Dodgers team. Your two young pitchers, Mitchell Parker making his major league debut, gets his win in that start in Game 1. And then Game 3, you have Jake Irvin come in and get the series win and throw a shutout. And also, by the way, doing all of that while he still probably had a little bit more left in the tank. Because we all know Davey Martinez, this has kind of been the knock on him for quite some time. He pulls pitchers a little bit too early. And I think in yesterday's contest, yeah, it was a little early. After going 6 innings pitched, getting through basically the heart of the order in yesterday's game, you still probably could have seen a little bit more, because getting pulled in 73 pitches while he's thrown 54 strikes and only 19 balls in that time frame, you probably would have expected a little bit more from Jake Irvin, but I'm not that upset about it. I'm really not. It's April 17th in yesterday's game. Now it's April 18th, obviously, but still, when you have someone out there who is still not recovering from Tommy John surgery, but he has had it in the past, it's mid-April, man. You can't just go out there, have him go 7 innings pitch, and maybe get in a little bit of trouble. Because one thing is for sure, if you go up against this Dodgers team, if you're going up against their loaded lineup, at some point, they're going to nip you in the butt. Davey Martinez, he went to his A bullpen. He went to Robert Garcia. He went to Hunter Harvey. And then he went to Kyle Finnegan and come in and shut the door. And that is exactly what that bullpen did in yesterday's contest. But it wasn't just Jake Irvin yesterday. It was, again, CJ Abrams. CJ Abrams in the start of this season has been one of, if not the best shortstop in the National League up to this point. He's playing Gold Glove caliber defense up to this point. He has a silver slugger awaiting in his background as well. He's a menace on the base path, as we all expected, and still a leadoff home run, 103 miles per hour off the bat, second pitch of the ball game. And again, this is against a rookie pitcher, Landon Knack, who's making his major league debut. Not someone who is, all too impressive. I don't think the Dodgers are really expecting too much from Landon Knack, but still, again, when you go up against Dodger pitching, you know what to expect. Someone who's going to pound the strike zone, someone who's going to throw pretty fast, have a pretty good arsenal of stuff. CJ Abrams took that to the side and said, it's no worries. I think we can now expect CJ Abrams. This is the kind of batter that you're going to expect with him. And again, if you look at the numbers, he's in top 10 for slugging in all of the National League right now. His batting average is up there amongst the best. His on-base percentage is up there amongst the best. His OPS in the top echelon of Major League Baseball up to this point. There's a lot of different things going for him, but ultimately, everything is clicking and everything is firing on all cylinders in a way that we have not seen up to this point in his career. Again, this is really year 2 for him. His first season up in the majors, I kind of wiped that away. 21 years old, should not have been up in the major leagues to start that year, because if you remember Fernando Tatis, he was a little banged up, had the issue there. They called CJ Abrams up, had him start at shortstop. It was way too premature. This was someone who did not get that much time down in the minors, considering he was drafted, had 2020's COVID year, missed that year, of course. And then 2021, kind of hit the ground running, hurt his ankle. Then in 2022, he's in the big leagues, gets traded to the Nationals. That is a whirlwind of a few years right there. So last year, you saw him in the second half of the season kind of break out just a little bit more. And now in his second full season up in the bigs, you're seeing him do this. I'm not expecting CJ Abrams to have an OPS over 1,000. I don't think that's going to be the case with him. But still, I think the power numbers are legit, because hitting 5 home runs, being top 10 in the NL of home runs so far on April 18th is pretty incredible for a kid that we weren't really sure all too well if this guy would be hitting home runs the way that he has been. But again, 5 home runs now on the season, a couple leadoff home runs. CJ Abrams, This kid is really going to be special. And of course, it brings us back to the question, why did the Nationals not extend him this offseason? That is something that I really want to know, and I'm very curious to tell what was wrong. What was wrong in this process? Because if you saw last season, the way that we all have seen, we discussed it all offseason, he took a big step up. And if you really believe in your development staff, I think the Nationals do, you probably would have gone ahead and said, we can get this kid an extension for probably not that much money. But from the way that he has been playing recently, he's not going to be cheap. I can tell you that right now. It's not going to be all too expensive. You can still get it done. But if I was CJ Abrams' agent, I'd probably wait and see what happens. Because at this point, I don't know if the Nationals will be able to lock him up at a long-term deal if this production continues. But still, 23 years old. One thing has been answered so far this season. You have your shortstop of the future, and it's not even a discussion up to this point. Thank you all for making Locked On Nats your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. And of course, check us out over on YouTube. Just search Locked On Nationals there, and that is where you will find the video content. And while you're at it, you will hit that subscriber button, please. Next, let's talk about the unsung hero of the 2023 Nationals. His name is Jesse Winker. We'll discuss that after we tell you guys about a couple of our good friends. We start off with our friends over at Policygenius. And guys, Policygenius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It saves you time and money so you can provide your family with a financial safety net starting today. With Policygenius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. Have you ever gotten positive feedback? Of course, we have from Policygenius. So if you have life insurance, you have to tell you guys about Policygenius because that is all you need to know. Policygenius helps you compare your options from top companies, and their team of licensed experts is on hand to help you talk through it. So, of course, talk to a team of award-winning agents who will walk you through the process step by step. Easily compare quotes from America's top insurers in just a few clicks to find your lowest price. And guys, check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policygenius. Head to policygenius.com/lockedonmlb or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/lockedonmlb. Now, let me tell you guys about our very good friends, as we mentioned before the show, over at Monopoly Go. And guys, when we talk about Monopoly Go, I just want you to know this, that you always have a good game here. And all you have to do is, of course, guys, I've been told that I'm a competitive person. And of course, if you listen to the show, you probably think that's true. Okay, well, yeah, I have a competitive side. We all do. And my competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great twist on Monopoly where you play on not one, but 100 of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you money. But the best part is messing with my friends. I can charge them rent on my iconic properties, just like classic Monopoly. But now I can also heist their vaults of riches for myself. And the leaderboards show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. But it's not just my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with friends and people all around the world in time tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go, now free in the App Store or Google Play Store. Again, that is download Monopoly Go. Thank you all for making Locked On Nats your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. And of course, check us out over on YouTube. Just search Locked On Nationals there. That is where you'll find us for your best daily coverage of the Washington Nationals. And of course, we've been talking about this a lot so far. Jesse Winker has been the Nationals' unsung hero in the year of 2024. If you go back over the last 2 years with the Mariners and the Brewers, he was an all-star back in 2021. Jesse Winker was not someone that was to be taken lightly. Over the last 2 seasons, he's been banged up with some injuries, and his numbers have showed for it. He had awful OPS, he had awful slugging numbers, was not getting on base. His strikeout rate, his contact rate were all in the gutter. And Jesse Winker kind of seemed to be someone of the past, someone who used to be an all-star, and which at this point, who's still not all that old, but it was not looking friendly for the former all-star. Now we sit here today, and again, it is only April 18th, but this is what we can take it for up to this point. Jesse Winker has the third highest OPS in the National League, ahead of guys like Shohei Ohtani, multiple-time MVP, ahead of a guy like a Fernando Tatis, and also the freak of nature, Elly De La Cruz. This guy is not just kind of go away lightly, in my opinion. Jesse Winker talked a lot about it this spring training, even when we were down there at West Palm Beach. He is healthy. He feels good. And if you see him within the clubhouse, and also one thing that really kind of stood out to me in the first series of this season, in Game 2, with Trey Lipscomb making his debut, you saw one guy go out of his way in the field to congratulate him on making his first MLB hit. That was Jesse Winker, kind of going out of his way, slapping his butt a little bit and say, nice job, kid. That might not be all too much to you guys, but still, that kind of goes to show you what his figure is like in this clubhouse. He is taking on this veteran leadership role in which this team and this Nationals team right now, they are starting to buy into it. I'm not saying Jesse Winker is going to be the leader of the clubhouse. I'm not saying that he's going to be some untouchable guy at the trade deadline potentially, because up to this point, if he's going to be hitting the ball like this, I'm probably going to move off Jesse Winker. But still, batting second in the lineup yesterday, having another infield single or having another single to start off that first inning at 30 years old, Jesse Winker is starting to come into his own. He's not going to be here for the long run, in my opinion. I just don't think that's going to be the case. But again, still, after last year having a 567 OPS in Milwaukee, then of course the year before that in Seattle after he was traded there, not really having all that great of success either. And again, the year prior to that in 2021, this guy was an all-star. And now you're starting to see him kind of come into his own, and ultimately the numbers are showing for it. Again, third highest OPS in the National League, third highest batting average in the NL, just behind Mookie Betts and Orlando Arcia. Ninth in slugging, ahead of Pete Alonso, ahead of Matt Olson, and ahead of Bryce Harper. And then he leads the National League in on-base percentage. Jesse Winker is starting to kind of turn my head a little bit and say, do we want to kind of take this serious at this point? Is it only the fact that it's just a few weeks into the season? Because again, if you were to check these leaderboards, there aren't just random guys out there. These are guys that are actually pretty damn good. Again, he is ahead of Shohei Ohtani in OPS. He is ahead of Fernando Tatis in his OPS. He has a higher slugging percentage than Pete Alonso, one of the best power hitters in baseball. Ahead of Matt Olson, again, one of the better power hitters in all of baseball. And against the guy I hate, Bryce Harper, ahead of him as well. There are a lot of things going for Jesse Winker, but here's the thing. The role that he has carved out is not only being a really good second hitter for this team right now, but it's also being that veteran leader. That is of value to a team right now when they're kind of in the middle of this rebuild, because again, you have James Wood down in the minors who is knocking on the doors, who probably could be in the majors within the next month relatively soon. But as far as Jesse Winker goes, I'm not saying you're just going to have this logjam of guys over Jesse Winker. James Wood is going to be the future here. We understand that. But still, it's making it a conversation up to this point. I'm not saying James Wood is going to be held back just because of Jesse Winker. But the way that he's been hitting the baseball, how can you take him out of the lineup at this point? He's helping you win games. He has a positive WAR. And still, he's been a success story up to this point in the season. If it was up to me, you're not taking Jesse Winker out of this lineup until he starts to fall off with his production, even just a little bit. But as of right now, you can't take him out of this lineup. He is way too fundamental for how this offense goes. You see this 1-2 combination with CJ Abrams and Jesse Winker. It gets guys like Joey Gallo, Joey Meneses, like we saw in the first inning yesterday, have RBI opportunities and get those power guys in right behind them in order to hit them home. Because Jesse Winker is not only a solid defender, not only good at the plate, but he runs the bases in a very smart way. And we already know what CJ Abrams can do at the leadoff spot. So it's making for a tough decision for this Nationals team to kind of decide what to do with this guy moving forward. It's not going to be as easy as everyone thinks, but still, Jesse Winker has turned my eyes and kind of making me dream a little bit about what this guy could be. And I think if you're a Nats fan out there, you might want to buy freaking Jesse Winker jersey up at this point. That's a little bit of a joke, but still, you can do that pretty easily, in my opinion. Thank you all for making Locked On Nats your first listen every single day. So we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. And of course, check us out over on YouTube. Just search Locked On Nationals. That is where you'll find your daily podcast stuff for your Washington Nationals. So, of course, check us out over on YouTube. And now we got to talk about the NL East as the Nats have the day off. So now, going to get into the NL East because there is one big takeaway, in my opinion, for the NL East. And I'll tell you what that is after we tell you guys about our friends over at PrizePicks. And guys, spring training is obviously over and baseball season is officially underway. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your PrizePicks entries, whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs. Take your pick of more or less and add them to your PrizePicks entry today. Get in the playoff action and win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks as you and the world's best players take the game to a new level during basketball's postseason. And of course, the playoffs begin on April 20th, and play-in rounds have already started, as you saw the last two nights. PrizePicks is something for every sports fan, from baseball and basketball to League of Legends and everything in between. You can pick LeBron, Shohei Ohtani, Connor McDavid, and hell, even again, Jude Bellingham, all in the same entry. So all you have to do is just maybe go up or down. It's that easy. So this is what you got to do. Go download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, go to your app store, download PrizePicks, and of course, use that code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that is code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Thank you all for making Locked On Nats your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. One thing has stood clear within the National League East, at least for me. This Nationals team is not the worst team in the NL East. And yes, it feels pretty damn good to say that. The Miami Marlins. I don't know how much people have really been watching outside of the Nationals this year, but still, if you look at the Miami Marlins, this is a team that has felt like they've been in a rebuild for 10 plus years. And hell, they probably have been. This is an awful baseball team right now. This is someone who is already 4.5 games back from the Nationals. They are 5th in the NL East. And again, they are 4-15 on the season. The Nationals are 8-10. I'm not going to sit here and say that they're probably going to sustain this winning percentage at 444. But I think one thing is pretty clear through the first few weeks of the season. We ain't that team. The Fish, the Miami Marlins, whatever you want to call them, they are awful up to this point. Now, competing with the rest of the NL East, that is where the Nationals will have their issues. And of course, if you do know this, over the last few seasons, the Miami Marlins, some way, somehow, have dominated us year after year after year. I don't think that's going to be the case anymore, though. Their pitching, the organization seems to be a mess. Their offense is not doing anything. You lost Jorge Soler. You have no power. There's a lot of issues within this Marlins team, but still, you just have to think this. If you have a negative 35 run differential through how many games? 19, 20 games so far this season? That is pretty damn bad. And again, the Nationals are not much better. They got a negative 14 run differential, but still, you got to think this. They're not that bad. This Nationals team is not in a terrible place considering you're in the thick of a rebuild. You don't really have expectations. The Marlins, they had some expectations. I'm not saying they're going to be a postseason team, but with their pitching, and the Marlins have kind of surprised people in years past. They've kind of found ways, like the Luis Arias trade, and the way that he's been hitting the baseball over the years with them. You kind of expect guys like that to kind of pop up out of nowhere. That's what the Marlins do. They kind of luck into a lot of different things, but still, it has been an awful season for the team. The Atlanta Braves are still sitting there up at the top, one of the best teams in all of baseball, 12-5. And of course, the Philadelphia Phillies are doing their thing as well, 11-8. The New York Mets are 10-8 right now, which, by the way, they've won 4 straight games. I don't really expect them to kind of propel this season. I don't really expect them to make any playoff run, but still, it's been impressive nonetheless. So the Nationals, you aren't going to be the worst team in the NL East, thanks to the Miami Marlins. Thank you all for making Locked On Nats your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. And of course, the Nats have the day off today. So you will take that day off. And then tomorrow night, you have Justin Verlander going up against Mackenzie Gore as a firework night. I will be at the game. We will see you there. And of course, it'll be a fun one. Justin Verlander makes his season debut. We'll preview that matchup in a big show for tomorrow on Friday. We'll see you on the other hand. Catch you.